Hey Tyler, I lost Dank tanks and I think Danny's tanks. Hope they come back. They probably went over to Steve's. I mean Bob's. Got any audio on me? Bob's. Got any audio on me? Bob's. Got any audio on me? Bob's. Okay, I hope y'all have me live tonight. We want to talk about substrates and filters and DIY projects, but I spoke to a few of you, and even though there's not many logged on right now, the first 30 minutes I wanted to go ahead and do some teaching, and then after the first 30 minutes we can have open question and answer or open discussion. So tonight I'm just going to bring some thought facts and some ideas about different substrates and stuff. And I want to first of all give credit to where I got my information from. And I have, I think, two or three websites. I'll have two. www.thespruce, THESPRUCE.com, and www.talkfishy.com. And that's two websites. I went to a third one, but I undoubtedly didn't write it down. So if I find my notes, I'll put it in the description. And that's where I got the information about different types of substrates and purposes. We know this is a broad subject, so I'm not going to be able to cover everything tonight. But first of all, the purpose of having a substrate in your aquarium, it contributes to the nitrogen cycle as a medium for the beneficial bacteria to grow, which helps with the nitrogen cycle. The second thing is that it creates a natural habitat for your fish, and which brings them security and helps them with orientation within the tank, giving them dimensions of the bottom and the sides and the top, etc. The third thing is that it looks nice to our eye. It's soothing, it's relaxing. It's been proven to have health benefits, to be able to watch your aquarium, to watch your fish, and just relax. So those are the first three purposes of this beautiful hobby. And we know that there's many different substrates. We know that there's gravel, and there's sand, and there's fertilizers, and there are even purposes and people who keep no substrate at all on the bottom of their aquarium. I found out an interesting fact about pure or distilled water has no buffering capacity at all within the water. And we need a buffering capacity because the buffering capacity causes a stability in the pH so that the pH does not fluctuate, which can be harmful to many fish's lives. We know that there's standard gravel, there's different sizes of gravel. There is pebbles, there's small, medium, large gravel, there's sand, there's crushed coral, there is large river rocks that create a natural setting. Some people use marbles, which is not natural, but it's often used for breeding egg layers who scatter their eggs so that the eggs can drop down between the marbles and therefore not be eaten by the parents or other scavengers in the aquarium. It's also ease of maintenance when you use marbles, large stones. Hi, is that Ivy's or Eves Daigle? I'm sorry. I'm doing teaching the first 30 minutes and then we'll chit chat. But welcome. Sorry if I messed up your name. If plants are used in an aquarium, a lot of times there are multiple layers used. There's a lower layer and then a covered layer with gravel or sand. And I'm probably going to butcher these names up, but laterite or vermiculite as a substrate, they store and release nutrients for live plants. There is pumice, peat, and humus, and vermiculite float. All of those types of substrate float, so they have to be soaked, or you can allow them to float and then they will sink on their own. Choosing the right substrate according to the type of tank that you're having. We have to educate ourselves before we start up our tanks. Thanks, Eve. Thanks for pronouncing your name for me. Choosing the right substrate according to the type of tank. If you're going to have a freshwater tank, if you're going to have a marine or a reef tank, if you're going to have a brackish tank, or if you're going to have marine life, or you're going to set up a terrarium, or you're just going to set up a plant aquarium, or a fish only aquarium. There's different reasons. There's different substrates that we would use for different types of fish keeping or aquarium keeping. Can't even read my own notes. Again, I'm going to repeat the purposes for having substrate in your aquarium. Number one, it's for the orientation and the safety and the comfort of the fish. 2, it helps with the nitrogen cycle. 3, we can cause a natural habitat. Hi, Abby. The first 30 minutes I'm doing some teaching and then we'll have open discussion. Number 4, you use substrate for breeding of the beneficial bacteria and microscopic life forms. So many people want to know, well, if I pick my substrate, how much substrate do I use? And there's different scales out there, but the information that I found tonight, I will share with you. If you're using sand, it suggests using 8 pounds of sand per square foot of your tank area for 1 inch depth. So you will do a square footage of your length, your height, and your width. You multiply those 3 together to get your square footage of your tank. So then you add 8 pounds per square foot. And I didn't do a square foot example of my aquarium, but I have an aquarium that is 24 inches long and it's 16 inches high, and I believe it's 12 inches wide. So let me see what the calculator says. 24 times 16 times 12 equals 4,608. That's inches. So divide that by 12 equals 384 square feet times 8 pounds equals, that's not right. I'm not a mathematician. If you don't know how much sand to use per square foot of your tank area, I would start with 8 pounds per square foot. We'll figure that out later. The suggested amount of substrate is 2 to 2.5 inches in the bottom of the aquarium. If you're using fertilizer soils, it says 1 pound per gallon. So if you're using a product like Eco or Eco Complete, you would have, for a 20-gallon tank, you would put 20 pounds of fertilizer soil in there. But you'll have to just figure it out according to the depth too, because you don't want it to get too deep. And I'll bring up other things to use with your soil. Of course, I was told when I started my tank to use 1 pound per gallon. And so when I started up my 20-gallon tank, I actually ended up putting 20 pounds of gravel in there, which was 2.5 inches of substrate, which I ended up, after a while, taking some of that substrate out. And I probably have about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of substrate in the bottom of some of my tanks now. Deeper layers, especially fine gravel, poses a danger, and this is a warning. When you get too deep in your substrate, food particles will sink into the less oxygenated areas of the substrate, therefore decaying and breaking down, and it produces a hydrogen sulfide, which that's where you get your rotten egg smell. So if the top of your surface of your tank smells like rotten eggs, you probably need to do some deep gravel vacs and some water changes to get some of that material out, to release the hydrogen sulfate and get the toxicity out of your aquarium. So, you probably are losing fish. In marine and reef aquariums, we use substrate for looks and for colonization of the beneficial bacteria. In marine and reef aquariums, the substrate can create an environment for crustaceans, crabs, shrimp, and bottom-dwelling creatures. And even in marine and reef aquariums, they suggest 2 to 2.5 inches of substrate. And suggestions for marine and reef substrate is, I'm going to butcher this up, aragonite, and crushed corals. And there's other substrates as well. Like I said tonight, I'm not going to be able to cover everything. Thanks, Abby. I am not a mathematician. I appreciate all the help I can get. For planted tanks, the things you want to be concerned about is what kind of plants are you going to put in there? Are they low light, medium light, or high light plants? And do some self-study, self-research on the internet, because I will be honest, sometimes our local fish stores are not educated and they'll sell you anything to make a sale. Some of them are educated and help you out quite a bit. But do research yourself. And thank God for live streams and all these YouTube family, fish family that we have. We can get a lot of free information from everybody. But first of all, you want to be concerned about your lighting. And then the substrate. There's different types of substrates that you can use for planted tanks. And you want to also be aware that there are plants that receive nutrients from the water column itself, like guppy grass and hornswort, water wisteria, different plants like that. And then there's plants that just receive nutrients from their root system. And then there's certain plants that have a rhizome, and you don't bury the rhizome underneath the substrate. You can bury the root, but leave the rhizome above the surface of your substrate. You must allow photosynthesis to go on, so certain plants will need some ferts and fertilizers and some will not. I was also told that even though plants help with the nitrogen cycle and with your fish by releasing oxygen into the water column, at night when the lights are out, the plants actually release carbon dioxide. CO2. So that's an interesting fact. When you have a planted tank, it should contain 2 layers. And I know Corey and Bob have let us know that you use a mixture. Some put the Eco-Complete or the dirt down, and then some people put a layer of gravel on top of the dirt. Some mix the dirt with gravel or what is it, crushed coral, if you need higher pH in your aquarium. And you have to know the type of fish you're keeping also. Um, excuse me, reading my notes. We know that there's different types of sand, but in a freshwater aquarium, it is not recommended to use sea sand at all, mainly because it has other living organisms in it that when they die off, they become toxic to your aquarium. A lot of times we can't see what's in sea sand, but they suggest using sandblasting sand, which is cheap to get, but it is more coarse. So if you need a smooth sand for cory cats and other animals that burrow into the sand, you might not want to use sandblasting sand. Play sand is a finer consistency sand, and it has been sterilized, but always check your labels to make sure there's no additives and there's no perfumes and no other chemicals that may harm our fish. Here's what the calculator says for sand. To calculate sand, you multiply in inches length times width times depth. The results divided by 20. That's what I didn't do. I didn't divide it by 20. And that will give you the approximate quantity in pounds. How about that, Abby? Let me say that again. You multiply the length of your tank by the width of your tank by the depth of your tank. Then you divide that total by 20. And that will give you, I think, square footage and give you approximate quantity in pounds, in U.S. pounds. Aragonite, if I'm saying that correct, is a calcium carbonate mineral reservoir of calcium carbonate, and it's released slowly into the water to buffer and help stabilize the pH. It will raise the pH as high as 8.2. So if you have fish that doesn't need a high pH, I wouldn't use aragonite calcium in my substrate. It also has trace elements for corals and overall functionality of the aquarium. And you can mix it with sand, with live sand or crushed corals. So I think we're talking about maybe marine or salt tanks right now. Crushed corals. Crushed coral is a favorite before the aragonite, and it shares some of the same benefits to stabilize and to enhance the pH, but it only raises the pH up to 7.6, where aragonite raised the pH as high as 8.2. Most commercial crushed corals are mixed with aragonite or calcareous materials, such as dolomite and calcite, which is similar to aragonite. The purpose is for marine, reef, brackish, and even African cichlids in fresh water. But you have to be careful with dosing so that you don't raise the pH too quickly or too much. Vermiculite is a mixture of aluminum, iron, and magnesium, and it raises the water holding capacity of the substrate. It increases the surface of your substrate, but it has neutral pH, which is 7.0. The cation exchange rate, it increases the cation exchange rate. The cation exchange rate is how plants utilize the available nutrients within the water column or within the substrate, and how it is able to use those nutrients. So that's the cation exchange. And so if you're using vermiculite in your substrate, it increases the ability for the plants to actually get the nutrients and be able to better survive and produce beautiful plants. It slowly releases valuable nutrients such as potassium and magnesium over a long period of time. It's not released quickly. It's kind of like a time release thing. And the longer it's in your aquarium, the more it releases these nutrients, potassium and magnesium. It says it's ideal for the lower layer of a planted aquarium. So if you use vermiculite, they suggest putting it on the lower level and then adding like a gravel or a sand on top of that. It has a tendency to compact itself over time, so you want to mix it with laterite or common aquarium gravel to maintain the porous structure of that lower level substrate. Latinite is a weathered clay from tropical and subtropical areas burned by the sun over thousands of years. And I'm going to spell it because I may not be pronouncing it correctly. It's Laterite. And it is suggested also as a lower layer substrate for planted aquariums. It has a porous appearance, and it contains high levels of iron oxide, and the more reddish brown the color is, they said the higher the level of iron oxide is in that material. It contributes to the high cation exchange rate, and this cation, C-A-T-I-O-N exchange rate, as I explained earlier, is the ability for the plants to receive the nutrients either from the water column or from the substrate through the roots, and that's called the cation rate. The laterite holds, and it kind of attracts nutrients, and it can store nutrients until the plant is able to utilize those nutrients through the root system. And I'm not a agriculturist or anything, but I know that once the roots have received the nutrients up into the stem of the plant, sometimes the stalk of the plant becomes full with nutrients, and so the roots go through a dormant stage of not sucking up nutrients. So when the source of the nutrients deplenish through the stem, through the leaves, and through flowering, then the roots become more absorbent, and so the storage of the laterite that stored those nutrients in the substrate is able to store those nutrients, and when those roots become absorptive again, then they start absorbing the nutrients again out of the substrate. So it's almost like a self-maintenance type substrate. It does not release minerals, but it can store nutrients for the plants. And of course, we all know cat litter is the cheapest form of laterite, but you should be careful, because some of the cat litter contains perfumes and even clumping additives, and you don't want to use that in your aquarium. You want the cat litter that has no additives to it. Again, the two websites that I received this information from today is www.thesproduce.com, and then the other one was www.guppies, talkfishy.com. We know that aquarium substrate serves a variety of functions and is not just for covering the bottom of your tank. There's fertilizers, there's fluorite, there's lightweight clay gravel, and can be mixed with sand or regular gravel. We are familiar, or we have heard the word Eco Complete, and it contains 25 minerals, and it includes the live heterotrophic bacteria to convert fish waste into food for plants. It doesn't require rinsing, even though we know every substrate that we put in our aquarium, we must rinse and rinse and rinse until the water comes clear as we can get it. But Eco Complete does not require rinsing, as most substrates do, before you add it to the tank. Okay, I've talked about different kinds of substrates: gravels, sands, fertilizers, which is dirt, crushed corals, and calcified substrates for marine and reef tanks. But now I want to discuss things that are not recommended for your aquarium substrate. And I did mention this once, and it's called sea sand. It's not safe for freshwater aquariums because it contains impurities as well as living organisms that pollute the tank water. Once in a freshwater environment, those organisms die, and when they slough off like that, they become very toxic to the water and will kill your fish. The crushed corals and aragonite sand are only recommended for use in marine and reef aquariums because they raise the pH so much. Peat moss, it can be used in freshwater tanks because it's made of decaying plant matter and can turn the water yellowish tan, but it can be used in black water or brackish tanks. And then sometimes, like I think certain betta and certain tetras, if you don't have tannins in their water to lower the pH, I believe peat moss lowers the pH. If I'm not right, somebody correct me. But that's about all I have on substrates right now. I appreciate your time. Y'all have been very patient with me, rattling on, and I just wanted to do a study on different substrates, why to use them, when not to use them. I know certain bottom-dwelling fish like cory cats and plecos and different things like that, they love sand, and they love, but I wouldn't get the real fine sand because that can, or the real coarse sand, that can damage their tentacles and barbs and stuff. So, welcome everyone. I'm through with my teaching. I appreciate your patience. Hi Tyler, hi Abby. Who else is here? I lost Dank. Eve is here, or she was here. Oh, Eve had to go fix supper. I think, hi Tyler. Abby, how are you doing today? You're trying to get sand, okay. Pool filter sand is best sand. Okay, Tyler, thanks for that advice. Pool top filter sand is the best I've found. It's smooth and doesn't stay stirred up in the water. Good. Tannins are antifungal properties. Also, Tyler, I used them on Mopani wood, driftwood that I've used for my neon tetra tanks to bring the pH down. Hi Mark, welcome. I just got through with my teaching on different substrates, their purposes, when to use them, when not to use them, and what not to use under certain circumstances. And whew, I've been talking for about 30 minutes. So now it's open discussion. And if you want to stay on the subject of substrates, Tyler said that he likes pool filter sand the best. And Abby says she's trying to get some sand. Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate it. Like I said, I touched on just a few things. There's so many different kinds of substrate and different applications of substrate. I'm not a marine keeper or saltwater keeper or uh, black water or brackish, but I know Lucas has some black water, and oh, I forget who has the brackish. Is that you, Mark, that has the brackish tank? Tyler, I'm going to check you out and see if I've subbed to you. Yep, I sure have. I hadn't watched a lot. I watched your guppy tank today. Got some beautiful guppies. Mark missed it all. Well, it should be recorded, hopefully, Mark, and you can view it later. That's okay, Mark. I knew some people wouldn't make it right at 6, and when I was logging on, I saw Bob was logged on. Is he still live? I'm going to see if he's still live.
I need a scientific name.
Yes, Bob's still live. So I'm not going to stay on long tonight then if everybody wants to visit Bob. What's he talking about tonight? My YouTube is broken. What happened, Abby? Let's see. I'm going to have to. No, I don't have any experience with jewel cichlids. I'm not a cichlid keeper. I mainly keep guppies. I'm working on 3 different strains right now. I have corydoras. I have a peppered corydoras in 2 tanks, 2 20-gallon tanks. So I have a total of about 10 of them right now. And I have a small school of neon tetra that's in one of my 20-gallon, and part of them are in a 5-gallon tank. And behind me here, you'll see I have 4 comet goldfish. And I have 9 tanks, Tyler, and all 9 tanks have guppies in them. Some of them are culls from other strains, and I'm getting ready to make another trip to the local fish store for store credit, and I'm probably going to take him about 50, and that cuts my guppies down quite a bit. I lost one of my females that I have been working with for 3 weeks, and I think she just had parasites and bacterial infections so bad that it looked like she was about to recover, and then she broke out with this fin rot, and her scales were rotting. I heard a noise. Hi, hon. How many bags? Well, sometimes I don't use bags. Let me show you what I use. These are 2-pound containers that I put probably up to 15 to 25 in each one of these, but I only have like a 20-minute drive to my local fish store. And then when I get to the local fish store, he puts them in the large 16-inch bags and then floats them in his tank. And when he gets time, he puts them in the aquarium. I think he has 75 to 100-gallon tanks that he puts the guppies in. Sometimes he separates the males from the females, sometimes he doesn't. Hi, Abby. You got your YouTube fixed? You use bags with an air stone. Go into the local fish store. You have battery operated air stones, air pumps. Mark? Okay, Abby, thanks. I'm glad you just had to go get dinner. Well, welcome back, Abby. Yep, I use a battery-powered air stone. All sun. How many guppies do you take at one time in a bag? Because my last trip, I took about 65 fish, and I used 4 of those containers. I did have a bag that I put probably about 10 in. I'm sorry, Abby. Abby says I felt really sad today and stayed home because I felt sick too. And the other betas are still looking for the beta that passed. Yeah, they probably will for a little while, but they'll be fine, and you will too. It takes time. Mark says all the stores I go to are over an hour away. I understand keeping the air stone going then. 30 in each bag. Yep, that can get a little heavy on the oxygen and the bio load. But I know that's the best you can do. Tyler says same here, 1 hour and 45 minutes away from me. That's hard. The furthest that I carried fish, let me think, was 2.5 hours. It wasn't fish, was it? No, it was my 5-gallon tank that had plants in it and a snail. I had 20 guppies go through my filter the other day. Oh, Tyler. Were they fry? Excuse me. Getting too comfortable for you guys. No, my pre-sponge fell off at night. Were you able to save all of them, Tyler? Can you have plants in sand? Yes, you can. I've seen people plant anubias. You might need something to weight them down, like plant weights or fishing weights tied around the base of the plant, because sand is not, it's too porous. Nova Scotia, Canada. All right, Tyler. You saved one of them, Tyler? Oh, my goodness. That hurts. Canadian squad. Abby, Mark, and Tyler. Tyler says he has plants in my sand. Do you have to weight them down? I'm sorry, I'm eating M&Ms. That's my snack. Do y'all want to hop over to Bob's stream tonight? Now, Mark, I've had fry in my filter, but I've never had a like a juvenile or anything like that. Your sand is 1.5 inches deep, so you don't have to use any weights on your plants. There you go, Abby. The story of Nemo, but as a guppy. Yeah. Well, guys, I think I'm going to shut down my stream and go on over to Bob and see what Bob's chit-chatting about tonight. Does that be okay? Thanks for joining. Well, Bob's doing a challenge for 30 days. So he's supposed to do a video every day. Bob knew I was streaming tonight last night because I was on his stream last night. He had fun teasing me about what SLC stood for. He said somebody told him it was Salt Lake City. And I said, no, it's my initials, Susan L. Core. But anyway, I'm going over to Steenthought. Love you guys, and see you later.